Everybody got their Ukraine money? That's where we're starting the show today. Does everybody have their Ukraine money yet? Because apparently we're giving out free money. And I would hope that everyone would have their Ukraine money by now. Have you checked your bank account? Ukraine money all around, guys. No? You don't have your Ukraine money? Well, the Senate passed the bill. Oh, I guess the House has to pass it for. Oh, that's right. Okay, fine. The House has to get to it, and then the president will sign it, and then everybody gets free money, free money, free money from the government. I'm going to try to maintain a semblance of composure. And I know, for you regulars out there, you're wondering, well, why start now? I get it. I'm going to try, because nothing infuriates me more than this subject of how our so-called conservative elected leaders just spend money hand over fist. I've been saying for in excess of 20 years now, and I've been on the radio for almost a quarter century. That's exact. By the way, I'm squirreling myself. Statman, you're exactly right.
Squirrel.
It was Fred Sanford or great. It was on Sanford. It was on Sanford and Son, which I loved. And if you want to know, I talk about my grandpa a lot. If you want to know what my grandfather was like, go watch Sanford and Son. Fred Sanford is a black version of my grandfather. The way he walks, the way he talks, the suspenders he wears, black version of my grandfather. Anyway, Grady used to say good googly moogly on Sanford and Son. It wasn't great googly moogly, good googly moogly. Yes. Thank you, Statman. Back to me being furious. I'm going to try to keep my emotions out of this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do so. For a long time, if I say anything that you remember for any length of time on this radio show, remember this. There are no, or very, very few conservatives in Washington, D.C. There are no, or very, very few individuals in positions of authority or power with any physical discipline whatsoever. That's physical. There's two syllables, not physical, physical. Today's Republicans are yesterday's Democrats. And today's Democrats are yesterday's socialists. And so that leaves us from a political party standpoint wondering, where are the Republicans? They don't exist anymore. They don't exist. Now, I understand that we can point to several in Washington, D.C., heroes of conservatism, like a Mike Lee or a Ted Cruz or certainly a Rand Paul. I would call Rand Paul a hero of libertarianism more so than conservatism, but be that as it may. There are two existential threats facing the United States of America from a political standpoint. I understand a lot of cultural things are going on, and I understand that those seem very serious in real time as we experience them. But by existential threat, by definition, something that threatens the existence of something, right? What threatens our existence as a nation? As a nation, as we understand it, as a cohesive collection of 50 states. What threatens the dissolving of that union? What threatens more than anything else groups of people deciding for themselves that they're going to take it upon themselves to try to remove themselves from said union? What is going to create a dynamic by which we become a country that we no longer recognize, or what will completely implode or explode, depending on your point of view, the nation from within or from an exterior standpoint? Now, There are some that have chided me that China presents an existential threat, and I don't include China in my analysis right now. And I see a lot of you on the super text line. I'm looking at the super text line out of the corner of my eye, and I see a lot of suggestions, and a lot of these suggestions are pretty good. But here's my analysis. There is an immediate existential threat to the United States of America, and there is a longer-term existential threat, in my opinion. The immediate existential threat is our refusal to recognize our own borders and enforce them. A nation without border enforcement ceases to be a nation. A nation without border enforcement ceases to be a nation. It's just land. Conquerable land. Someone explain to me why I'm wrong. I'd love to hear that. I'd love to hear that. How is it that we can continue to function as a nation when you allow anyone and everyone to come into your quote-unquote borders and do as they desire? Whether it's roving moped gangs of people in New York City, lawlessness, to the point they've learned that all they have to do is do the deed and beat up some cops, and they'll get out on cashless bail, and they can flip off the reporters assembled in front of them, and by extension, flip off the entire country. And then off they go to California or wherever. Have we caught those guys yet? Not to my knowledge. Border security, not immigration policy. And one of the greatest lies being told to the American people right now is how those two things are one and the same. They're not. I'm happy to have any conversation about a change in immigration policy that you want to have after you shut down and secure the border. And I am amazed and sickened with the amount of people that are willing to accept this premise that we can't do it. To hell with that. Can you imagine a moment in American history, a pivotal moment in American history, where the powers that be gathered together around the proverbial table of understanding and brainstorming, and they just decided we can't do it? Hey, there's a lot of Nazism going on in Europe. And we've been loath to get into all of this, but we kind of need to take that continent back to the spirit of freedom and liberty. So we've got this plan in place that we call, what was it called? Operation Overlord. We got this plan in place where during Operation Overlord, we're going to ship tens of thousands of munitions and hundreds of thousands of human beings. We're going to land them on the continent of Europe. We're going to retake the continent. We can't do that. We can't do that. Oh, well, I guess Hitler wins. I mean, there's nonsense about not being able to secure the southern border. It's just ridiculous. It's just absurd. We can do anything we set our minds to do. The Democrats won't allow it, and they have enough stupid people voting in this country that give them the gravitas needed to prevent action on this issue. So that's number one. Southern border, I believe, is particularly southern border, but borders generally, is the greatest short-term existential threat that we face as a nation in the United States of America. And the greatest long-term threat, and by far the greatest threat that we face, is overspending in Washington, D.C. And by extension, what comes of it. And there's no end. There's no end in sight. No one is willing to stand up and tell the United States of America that we can't have ice cream and cake every meal, that we have to eat our peas. No one in the United States of America with any force of will can get elected on that premise anymore. You can't get elected anymore telling people that they can't have free money. Because everybody's got something. Everybody's got something. And it's all ridiculously fake money. All of it. The Republicans have something. The so-called conservatives got something. The Democrats, they're ready to spend your money and his money and their money and future money and grandkids' money. They'll spend anything and everything you get around them. Our country's going to cease to exist, folks. Oh, but Ukraine will be around. That's great. That's great. The Senate of the United States of America last night voted to spend 1/10 of $1 trillion on foreign countries. $1/10 of $1 trillion on places you've never been. 1/10 of $1 trillion of money we don't have. And in the time that it has taken me to explain this, illegal aliens have killed Americans. In the time since I got on air on this February 13th, in the 20 minutes that I've been on this radio show, potential terrorists have walked across the southern border. And they're spending 1/10 of $1 trillion for nothing. It's a load of garbage. I don't know why I talk politics anymore. Just to get you riled up? To get you angry? Why do we even do this? Why does Super Talk 99.7 WTN exist? Now, we believe in the free market and capitalism. We want to earn a buck or two. Sure. We want to advise you about our wonderful advertisers, and I'll be doing that all day. But from a content perspective, my goodness, it feels like we're losing.
Well, if it wasn't for outlets like ours, the slide would be a lot faster.
I suppose. I just get beside myself. I've not lost hope yet, but it's coming. 615-737-9986 if you want to comment. It's 24 after the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy and you. Look, I'm keeping my chin up. I'm not going to go through moments of despair like I did several weeks ago regarding this country. I do go through those waves of emotion. You understand that, and we're a part of one big happy family, right? And so we've just got to make it through. But last evening, at least 22 Republican senators, at least 22 of them, I don't know how many others voted no but really believed yes, I don't know. But at least 22 senators worked feverishly into the night to make sure that 1/10 of $1 trillion would be spent on foreign governments in places that you've never been for purposes of their own making. And I don't know what you're going to see from it. I just don't. Tracy will get to you out of Lebanon in just a moment. I want you to stay right there. If you have a thought or a comment, you can super text us, 615-737-9986. Many of you already have, 615-737-9986. You can also give us a telephone call. We'd love to hear from you. So, 96 billion, hard to even fathom and change, going to foreign governments, 60 billion of that going to Ukraine. So one would expect that we would get something for that money. What are we getting for that money? I want to explore that. Because if we are to consider the others aside on this, because we're told if we don't do this, we're toast as a world, which is just, it's such a garbage, insulting argument, but we'll entertain it. If we don't spend this $60 billion that we don't actually have, if we don't print fake money to hand that fake money to Vladimir Zelensky, we are toast. That's our national interest, we're told.
Why does it always fall on our shoulders to pay the debt? How come the EU's not shouldering
Makes zero sense to me. This will amount to roughly, I've seen estimates somewhere in the neighborhood of $165 to $200 billion that we have sent to Ukraine. And it hasn't worked yet. They're losing. Here's my thing. They're lying to you. They know where all of this goes. For me, do one of the other. You're half pregnant right now. Either get out and stop wasting money that we don't actually have, or go all in and admit that you want to spill American blood. You want troops on the ground getting shot at in Ukraine. You can have it one way or the other. Right now, we're half pregnant.